for our survival. What happens when our kidneys start to lose their efficiency, when they start to become diseased? At what point do our kidneys considered unhealthy?
Well, unang-una, for most people, they start to have symptoms. Ang pinaka-common symptom dito, yung namamaga yung paa, yung usually dalawang paa. Doon ang pinaka-common na nakikita na nagiging kidney problem. Pero before that, before maging mamamaga ng paa, yung iba nagkakaroon na ng high blood. Yung iba, parating pagod. Yung iba ihi ng ihe o kaya hindi umiihi. Ganyan, no? So may mga iba-iba mga symptoms na hindi specific. Marami. Pero yung kadalasan yan, napapaisip na lang talaga tayo ng kidney pag namamaga yung mga paa. O kaya, yung other one is mataas yung blood pressure is another possible one. Kaya parati check natin yung blood pressure yung kidneys pag inisip natin blood pressure.
Our viewers get that feeling that our kidneys are very, very vital to our body's function. So it's no surprise that a number of conditions can impair it. Dr. Emil, pag-usapan naman natin no. Let's talk about some of the causes for kidney disease. Let's talk about some of the causes for acute kidney disease, acute kidney damage, and then let's talk about chronic kidney disease. What makes a person have chronic kidney disease?
Okay, when you say acute kidney disease or acute kidney injury, we talk about a disorder or an impairment in the function of the kidneys that is acute, biglaan. And usually, these cases happen in patients who have severe infections. For example, we usually see them in the ICU. No, yung mga pasyenteng with sepsis, with severe infections, with heart failure, when, for example, the heart function begins to drop, eventually the kidneys follow. In sepsis, when there is severe infection and there is blood pressure drops, there is a dilatation of all the blood vessels all over the body because of the infection, babagsak ang blood pressure, there will be poor perfusion of blood to the kidneys, and this will lead to acute kidney injury.
Okay, Dr. Emil, pag acute, this is something na biglaan ng mangyayari. So let's talk about itong chronic because this is also very important because ito yung kadalasan hindi napapansin ng mga tao.
That's right. Now, when we speak of chronic kidney disease, this is long-term, no? As the name suggests, chronic, pangmatagalan yan. And usually, they are secondary to, in the Philippines and actually globally, the most common cause of chronic kidney disease is still diabetes, followed by hypertension, and then glomerulonephritis, which is inflammation of the filters of the kidneys. So diabetes and hypertension are the two of the leading causes of chronic kidney disease.
As was mentioned, the two main causes of chronic kidney disease include diabetes and high blood pressure, as well as glomerulonephritis. And both diabetes and hypertension, these are conditions that are extremely prevalent here in our country. Now, pag-usapan natin ang diabetes. Dr. Emil, what does it do to our kidneys and how many people living with it will develop chronic kidney disease?
Patients who are diabetic for at least 10 years will eventually have chronic kidney disease or will start to manifest with chronic kidney disease. However, in my practice, we get patients who have been diabetic for only 5 years but already have some form of insufficiency in the renal function. Now, as to how it leads to chronic kidney disease, in high glucose states, pag mataas ang blood sugar natin, there is a lot of glucose load that we give our kidneys. And that causes what you call hyperfiltration. Masyado namang malakas yung filtration during this period. And over the years, with that load that you give to your kidneys, to the filters, to the glomeruli, changes already begin to happen. Lumalaki yung, first they start to swell, and later on, they start to develop scars, no? Sclerosis, fibrosis, tumitigas na yung tissue ng kidneys until they lose their filtering capacity.
Now, earlier on the show, we mentioned that most don't realize that they have chronic kidney disease until it's in its advanced stages. But there are some warning signs that can point to it early on. More on this when we return. We're your partner in healthcare. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, Ato ni Bay SMC San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
RPN DXKT 1071 sa dial sa inyong mga radyo.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk, where caring is our calling. Now, chronic kidney disease is an under-recognized public health crisis here in the country, with the condition being a leading cause of death among Filipinos. This occurs when our kidneys are unable to filter the waste and excess fluid in our bodies properly. Now, let's talk about why kidney disease is particularly common here in our country. Dr. Amiel, tell us about some of the reasons why Filipinos are at risk for having chronic kidney disease.
One of the major risk factors among Filipinos, I think, is, well, the prevalence of hypertension and diabetes. No? And then if we dig deeper, I think it can also be traced to our diet. No? If our diet is rich in sodium, no, high salt, Filipinos are food lovers, di ba? So most of our diet is usually salty, high salt. And then, of course, if we have a poor health-seeking behavior, no, marami sa atin ini-ignore ang pagpapatingin sa doktor. So I think that's the reason primarily why we have an increasing number of chronic kidney diseases.
You mentioned a lot of good reasons there. Filipinos like malalasang pagkain, high salt, high fat foods. How about the symptoms when it comes to these? Are our kidneys able to adapt to certain changes that may hide certain symptoms and then lalabas na lang before it's too late?
Signs and symptoms of chronic kidney disease come much later. No, we don't really, because you're right, the kidneys have the ability at the start to adapt to these changes in, for example, a high salt diet. However, later on, in the latter stages of chronic kidney disease, and usually that's when they start consulting the doctors, is when they already start to develop signs and symptoms.
What are some of the warning signs that our kidneys are already adapting pero baka hindi ito mapansin ng mga Pilipino?
Well, the most, I think, obvious of the signs and symptoms is edema, no, manas, no. Water, when you find fluid retention in the legs, there's swelling in the legs. I think that's the most obvious manifestation. However, I think more importantly, if we want to pick up chronic kidney disease early, a very simple screening procedure would be getting a urinalysis. The urinalysis will give us a lot of information. It's not a very expensive test to get. I think a urinalysis would be a very good screening test to check if we have signs of chronic kidney disease.
Let's talk about some of the complications that may arise because of chronic kidney disease. We talked about yung pamamaga, pamamanas. What other complications, Dr. Charles, are prevalent with someone with chronic kidney disease?
For one, you have yung kidney failure mismo. Yung kidneys hindi na gumagana. So kung mag-kidney failure ka, delikado talaga yon. You can end up, like yung sinabi ni Dr. Amiel, you can end up with sepsis, you can end up at the ICU. Pero also, because the kidney plays such an important role in the body, people na may kidney disease, we find na madalas silang magkasakit, madali silang magka-pneumonia, madali silang magkaroon ng heart disease, no? Kasi nga, it plays a central role eh. So, pag nasira yan, ang daming ibang mga sakit na pwedeng sari-sari na pwedeng mangyari sa taong may kidney disease.
Now, Dr. Amiel, a lot of people might misconstrue swollen feet and ankles with that of gout. Can you talk about gout a little bit? Anong connection ito with our kidneys as well?
Well, gout can also lead to chronic kidney disease because when we talk of gout, we talk of uric acid crystals, which can produce some tubular obstruction. No? Bumabara din yan minsan sa ating mga tubules ng ating nephrons. Now, how to differentiate between the two? Well, usually in cases of swelling or manas because of chronic kidney disease, It's usually both feet, and you will see that when you press on it, there is pitting. When you put some pressure, lumulubog talaga yung skin. As compared to swelling because of gout, usually it's not. It does not involve both, no, unless the patient has gout on both feet, no. But usually may tenderness, may redness ang gout, no. Masakit talaga yung pinaka joints, no. That's how to distinguish it.
Now, Dr. Amiel, madalas din nakikita ng mga viewers natin if they have any kidney complications is that of anemia. Nagkakaroon ng anemia may chronic kidney disease. It's actually estimated that 1 out of 7 people with kidney disease will have it. Walk us through that. Ano ba yung anemia? Anong connection nito sa ating kidney?
Okay, because the kidneys produce the hormone called erythropoietin, no? Ito yung hormone that our body releases which tells our bone marrow to produce red blood cells. And so when you have impaired kidney function, sira na yung kidneys mo, the cells that should produce this hormone also malfunction and starts to not produce enough erythropoietin in the body, and this leads to anemia of chronic kidney disease.
So it's very important to have yourself checked by a specialist or even a physician, or get access to medical care if ever you experience any of these symptoms. Now, treatment for kidney disease usually depends on the cause. But for many cases, small healthy changes in your everyday is the best cure. More on this when we return. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni bay. SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni bay.
RPN DXKT 1071 sa dial sa inyong mga radyo.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk. Many people living with diabetes and high blood pressure are at risk of kidney disease. But while the management for this is available, early treatment can make a huge difference in slowing down its progression or even finding a way to minimize it. Dr. Charles, let's talk about early detection for possible chronic kidney disease.
What we do have some laboratory tests. So, kukunin mo lang yung ihi mo and then titignan natin sa microscope and may konting didip lang. This is the simplest way to detect primary problems. And then we have some laboratory tests such as creatinine and BUN. Another thing that I would like to emphasize sa mga ating mga viewers is i-check nyo kung may mga pagbabago sa ihi. Yung dami ng ihi nyo, masakit ba yung pag-ihi? Or nagbabago kulay ng ihi? Or kung bumubula ang ihi ninyo. These are signs na probably baka may problem yung kidneys. And so have yourself check. Kapag ganyan, pag may nakita tayong problem sa urinalysis, we can go on yung kidney test, creatinine BUN, and we can also do ultrasound para makita natin yung shape ng kidney, kung may bato, mga ganyan.
Now, the sooner you know that you have some form of kidney disease, the better. But even if you don't have this condition, it's worth taking steps to protect your kidneys from damage. Dr. Amiel, let's go through some of the ways that our viewers can manage their kidney health, trying to prevent chronic kidney disease.
The most common causes of chronic kidney diseases are hypertension and diabetes. So make sure if you have those conditions, keep them well managed, no? Control the blood pressure, control the blood sugar. Now, as to other things that we can do in our lifestyle, well, of course, we should avoid smoking. We should not smoke because that will aggravate atherosclerosis in the body. Yung sinasabi natin kanina na pagkipot ng mga ugat. Having a healthy diet, meaning low sodium, low in salt, and low protein. Because creatinine is actually a waste product of protein metabolism. So if we are able to limit our intake of protein, that is, of course, meat, no, pork and beef, and stick to more of vegetables. And well, of course, if you're not diabetic, you can still continue with your carbs. We can slow down the progression of chronic kidney disease.
Dr. Charles, gaano kalaki ba ang impact ng tamang pagkain, tamang diet with regards to our kidneys?
You know, ang diet is something that we do every day, di ba? Ang pagkain. So pag ang pagkain natin ay hindi healthy, malaki talaga yung impact nito. Sabi nga sa inyo, may mga 30 years old pa lang nagkakaroon na ng hypertension. May mga bata pa lang meron ng diabetes. And the diet can help change this. Hydration is very important. I've had a lot of patients na nagbubuhat ng mabigat tapos iihin ng dugo. They need to hydrate. You need to take in proper hydration. And then the other one is they have to avoid taking unnecessary medicines and herbs. Yung mga mahilig mag-take ng kung ano-ano mga iniinom na mga gamot o kaya herbs, some of these herbs and medicines can cause kidney damage also.
There comes a point where our kidneys are just not able to handle all the waste products in our body anymore. Either hindi naagapan or hindi naagapan ang pag-treat nito. So, umaabot tayo sa dialysis as well as transplant ng kidney. Dr. Amiel, that's what I'd like to talk to you about right now. Let's talk about pag umabot na sa puntong dialysis and then kailan umaabot sa puntong kidney transplant.
These two options can both be offered to patients on stage 5 or when kidney transplantation sometimes is even given earlier, is started earlier or is performed earlier. As to the choice, it's actually an option that is available to the patient. Well, kidney transplantation offers a survival advantage. No, when you compare their longevity, well, the life expectancy of patients on kidney transplantation are a little better. But it is also not right to say that patients on dialysis will not survive long because we have patients on dialysis who survive more than 10 to 15 years.
Now, living with chronic kidney disease can be challenging for both patients and the family members. Dr. Charles, do you have any tips for those to help cope with the disease?
First is you need to get a lot of support from your family. You know, the family support is it brings out a lot, no? A lot of problems with those with kidney disease is depression and sadness. Imagine if you're doing dialysis 3 times a week. That's 3 times, that's more than an hour that you're always in the hospital. This can really bring you down. So you need to have good support and friends to help you, bring you up. Also, if you have relatives or you have diabetes or hypertension, find people who can help you become healthier. Find people who will support you and help you stay healthy, and you will be more motivated to do so.
Now remember, the best way to avoid getting sick is to focus on prevention and living a healthy as well as an active lifestyle. Avoid foods so high in sodium and cut out any excess sugar in your diets. Thank you very much, nephrologist Dr. Amiel de la Cruz and family medicine specialist Dr. Charles Edward Florendo for being with us today. We appreciate your time and your insights. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and we'll see you again next time.